Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today, I'm going to share with you my freight broker pre-cold calling checklist. I'm going to share with you 5 things on my checklist that you absolutely have to do before you start cold calling as a freight broker. So thank you, everybody, for joining me. Truly appreciate you being here live. If you're catching this on replay, awesome. Hit me up in the comments with hashtag replay. Love to hear from my replay folks. Thank you so much for being here. Monday at noon, I do a live training every single week. And this week, we're going to talk about my freight broker pre-cold calling checklist. Okay. It's a checklist of 5 things that you need to do that are very important that you do before you start cold calling. All right. As a freight broker or a freight agent. So that's what we're going to cover today. So here's the agenda. We're going to do the training. Then we're going to do maybe a giveaway, right? Maybe a t-shirt, maybe some cash, depending on how much time we have. And then at the end, I'm going to do live Q&A. So if you want to stick around for that, you can ask any questions you have, and I will do my absolute best to try to answer those questions live. Again, we're streaming now. I think it's on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn, a couple other places. So wherever you're watching me, truly appreciate you being here. Let's give a few shout outs. Let me know where you're logging in from before we start the training, and then we'll get the ball rolling here, okay? All right, so where are you guys at? We got James from Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome. We've got Diesel Dan from Oklahoma. Welcome. We've got Blakely Friend from Phoenix, Arizona. We have Sergio checking in from Apache Junction. Hey, cool. We got Serge from Arizona. We got Michael 46 from Orlando. And we got people from all over the place, as usual. We got Atif from Dallas, Texas. Michael Shepard from Weaver, Alabama. Zoran from Macedonia. Here we go. Paul Johnson from Raleigh, North Carolina. Alvin, welcome from Mississippi. Matt McCall from Orlando, Florida. Operations is DSN Expedited from Indiana. Aman from Sweden. Letitia from Austin, Texas. We have Think Up with Rose, Southwest Florida. Awesome. Ozan from Lincoln, Nebraska, as always. Lucretia from Raleigh, North Carolina. Shane Mass from Utah. Joe the Trainer from Atlanta. Aaron Deep from Tracy, California. Papa Bear in a Chair from Kansas City, Missouri. Andrea Hodge from Sacramento, California. We got people from all over the place. Thank you so much for being here. I know you guys are very busy, so I'm going to get this thing started here in just a minute. But again, for those of you that are just catching me now, today we're going to talk about my freight broker pre-cold calling checklist. All right. I'm going to share with you 5 things that you really need to do. I promise you 5 things that you really should do before you start cold calling. If you follow these 5 simple tips, okay, these are things that anybody can do. If you follow these 5 simple tips, you could literally double or triple the chances on any given call or any given day of getting a new shipper as a customer. All right. So these are fundamental core principles that you have to do before cold calling. All right. So welcome again. We're letting a few people get live, and we're going to get the ball rolling here. Before we start, make sure you hit the like button, click share, and engage. If you want to stick around to the end, we are going to do live Q&A. I love to hear from my Q&A people. We're going to do a giveaway based on time. If you guys want a Freightpreneur t-shirt, if you can't read it, it says someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. And no, I don't sell these. I give them away. I've given away hundreds. So we'll probably do that right after the training. All right. So here's my notes. You can see I got some notes today, and we should be able to get through this pretty quick. So let me grab a quick drink, and we will get the ball rolling here. Man, we got a lot of people from LinkedIn, a lot of people from YouTube. We got people from Facebook. Seems like YouTube is the big winner these days. Everybody likes to stream from YouTube. I love it. And if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, you're absolutely crazy. I do at least 2 new training videos a week, right? I have hundreds of videos on there, absolutely free. And if you don't do that, you're not going to get notified. You got to subscribe and then hit the all notification bell, and that will help to make sure that you get notified every time a new video comes out. I do that with all my favorite channels. Any channel that I want to follow, I always hit the all notifications bell. As soon as I come in, boom, I get notified. I love it. I never miss a video from some of my favorite channels. So make sure you do that. All right, guys. So today I'm going to share with you my freight broker pre-cold calling checklist. All right, Dennis. So what's this all about? What is this pre-cold calling checklist? Well, I'm going to share with you 5 things that you should do before you start your cold calling activities daily. All right. So I'm going to give you 5 things. This is really important. Some of these might be obvious, but I want you to stick around because there's a couple of nuggets in here that you absolutely don't want to miss. All right. So number 1, this goes without saying, you need to understand what is your goal. What is your goal for doing this cold outreach? Now, some people think their goal on that call is to get a shipper, right? Is to close the deal. And they couldn't be further from the truth. You're not looking to do a one call close. That's not what this is about. And it will rarely, if ever, happen for you in your career. There's a process. First, they have to know, like, and trust you. So your goal, the goal that I like to define on a first phone call, is to have what I call a quality conversation. Now, what does that mean? Well, here's what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean you get on the phone and 15 or 30 seconds later, they say, I'm not interested, and they hang up. That's the opposite of a quality call, right? A quality conversation. So a quality conversation is one where you're able to build some basic rapport, right? You've built some rapport with them. All right. They're starting to know you. They know who you are, and they're starting to like you because you have some similarities and you're building some sort of rapport, right? You've got something in common, right? So build rapport. The second part of a quality conversation is gathering intelligence, gathering information that's going to help you in future contacts and future calls, and going to help and enhance the opportunity for you to get the sale. So you're going to gather some intelligence. And number 3 is you're going to establish the next step. Now, the next step is usually you're going to follow up with an email. You're going to follow up with a phone call. You're going to do some rate quotes. You're going to answer a question that you maybe didn't have the answer to. You're going to establish a next step with your prospect. And you're going to agree to that next step and a timeline for that. Okay. So that is number 1. You need to understand what is your goal. And I believe your goal should not be to try to close them. It should be to have a quality conversation. All right. That's number 1. Number 2, you need to do your research. Do some research. I'm not talking about spending 20 minutes or 30 minutes researching every single company that you're going to call, but you do need to spend a few minutes on their website, looking at their products, looking at some recent news that may be about them or their industry. You need to do a Google search on the company and the industry and try to find out what's very relevant, what's recent, what's current. And you also need to go on the person's LinkedIn. You need to go on the shipping manager's LinkedIn, warehouse manager, logistics manager, whoever it is. And if you can't find them, you need to go on the company's LinkedIn page and try to gather some sales intelligence. Now, sales intelligence, my definition is any piece of data that you can gather before or during the sale that enhances your opportunity to get the sale. All right. So that is, number 2, which is do your research. You have to understand some basic things. If you call that shipper up and you don't understand what products they sell, that is a big red flag. It's a big red flag, and you will instantly lose credibility if you don't know that. All right. So there's some really fundamental, simple things that you can do as research before. And once you get good at this gathering research, it literally will only take you 2 or 3 minutes before each call. And at that point, you'll have the fundamentals and you'll be able to build on it from there. Okay. So that's number 2, do research. Listen, I'm going to give you number 3. Okay. Number 3 is important, but here, I want you to make sure you stick around to number 5. Okay. Because number 5, while all of these are important, number 5 is absolutely critical. So if you don't stick around to number 5, you're really going to miss out. Okay. Number 3 is you have to have a voicemail script ready. You have to have a basic or multiple voicemail scripts ready in order for you to really be able to be effective as a salesperson, because there are going to be times when people don't pick up the phone. And there are going to be times when you're probably going to want to leave a voicemail. All right. Now, not on every call, but there are going to be times that you're going to want to leave a voicemail. So, putting a really concise and well-constructed voicemail together is very, very important. I teach as a part of my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, which is that 5-week coaching program where I take that piece of my brain and I transplant it into your head, everything about my best freight broker sales strategies, tactics, tools, and my entire system, which unfortunately you can't sign up for right now, but you can get on the wait list. There'll be some sort of a link here. I think it's freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. But in that Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, one of the things that I teach is my winning voicemail blueprint. I'll share it with you really quick. It goes like this: intro, and then you're going to do the reason for the call, which is your sales hook. You're going to do the call to action, and then you're going to give your contact info. So that's the basic framework. All right. I'm not going to get into a big, long, drawn out voicemail right now, but listen, there is a right way and a wrong way to leave a voicemail. I promise you. All right. I promise you and the subtleties of right and wrong make a huge, huge difference. Okay. So you want to have a script or multiple scripts for your voicemails. You want to be prepared for those voicemails because you're going to leave some voicemails. All right. All right. Number 4, be prepared mentally. This is one of the things that really takes new brokers out of the game. Couple things you got to know going in. You're going to hear no. You're going to get some rejection. Okay. Some people might even be mean. Oh, yeah. Here's the deal. This is chess, not checkers. You got to understand. You have got to know going in that there's going to be some rejection. You're going to hear no. I'm going to tell you that right out front. But here's the thing. The good news about this is that if you don't take it personal and you can weather the storm, there's an opportunity for you with even a small shipper, just one small shipper, to do $5 or $10 or even $20,000 a year in profit right in your pocket. Now, I can't guarantee that, but I can tell you that if you got one shipper doing $200 per load per week, right? One load per week at $200, that's over $10,000 a year in profit. So you don't need, my point is, you don't need hundreds of shippers in order to build a successful freight brokerage or freight agency. So the cool part is, yes, there's going to be some rejection, but you don't need to have a huge book of business in order for you to make a significant 6 or even 7-figure income. So some of the things to be prepared mentally, understand you're going to hear no. A couple of things that I like to do, if I'm not in the right mindset, the right mood, a couple of things that I do, I might play some music that really gets me excited. Like when I hear the Rocky theme, I'll get the chills will go down the back of my neck. There's other songs, other movies, things of that nature that will get me kind of build my momentum, build my confidence, and get me going. Another thing that I like to do, which is what I'm doing right now, is standing when I sell. You've probably heard me talk about that before. Don't sit down. Don't sit down at your desk and hide your face in your cubicle and mumble and be mealy-mouthed. Stand up. Okay? So those are a couple things you can do to make sure you have the right mindset and to make sure that you're prepared mentally. Okay? And then number 5, I promised you the big one here. Number 5. This one is probably more important than all of the other 4 combined. While the other ones are important, this one is really, really, really important. And what it is this: you have to define your sales hook. You have to define what you are going to say in the first 5 to 15 seconds of that phone call to get their attention. And if you sound like everybody else, that's not getting their attention in a good way. And don't be surprised if you get hung up on or you get a lot of rejection. You have to figure out a way to be different. Creating a sales hook is not that difficult, especially if you did number 2, which was doing your research, right? Remember, we talked about your research. We talked about the company website. We talked about, doing a Google search. We talked about their LinkedIn profile. If you gather some information and you do your research, Number one, it's very easy to come up with something that's relevant, contextual, and current that you can use as a sales hook to differentiate yourself and get your prospects' attention. Very simple, okay? So it's not that hard to do that. The other thing you can do is you could have some predefined sales hooks put together based upon the logistics manager in any given industry, whatever your niche is. Say you're in the steel industry and you're selling to logistics managers. The steel industry, logistics managers in the steel industry have the same 4 or 5 problems no matter where they are in the country, right? On-time pickup and deliveries, right? Claims, freight rates, capacity, right? Things of that nature. Those are some of the more common issues that every logistics manager in the steel industry has. But then by gathering the sales intelligence that's specific to that prospect or specific to that industry or specific to that company, here's what you're doing. You're differentiating yourself. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's not the smoothest talking salesperson that is the most successful. It's not the salesperson who makes 200 phone calls a day every day. The salesperson, the freight broker, the freight agent that is the most successful, in my experience, okay, in almost 20 years of brokerage, okay, is the person, the broker that is the most educated. And I'm not talking about formal education. I'm not talking about college or getting your master's or your PhD. That has no correlation. The correlation is how educated they are about their niche, how educated they are about the company they're talking to, and how educated they are about the prospect themselves. The more information you have there, the better sales hook you can create, the better dialogue you can create, the better rapport you can build, and the more opportunities you have to move to the next stage, right? Because again, in a cold call, all we're trying to do is have a quality conversation, all right? So those are the 5 tips. Listen, if you're curious about becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, right, and you're just not quite sure where to start or where to go, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We've trained over 10,000 students, been in business well over a decade now. And we offer a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. If for any reason, you're not happy, we'll absolutely give your money back. It's an unconditional money-back guarantee. For those of you that want more advanced sales training, right, and you really want to dig in and you want to be a part of that 5-week Freight Broker Sales Accelerator coaching program, just go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. You'll get put on the wait list. You can enroll right now. We have limited spots. When we do open up here in probably the next month or two, we'll open up enrollment, and hopefully you'll be a part of that. You'll be selected as a part of that program. Check out the wait list. Make sure you like, comment, and most of all, subscribe. If you're on YouTube or wherever you're at, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you click the all notifications bell. Have an awesome day, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, so for those of you that are going to stick around for the giveaway and for the live Q&A, awesome. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was the pre-cold calling checklist. Those are 5 things that you need to do before you start cold calling. Because I hear everybody talking about, well, I need, there's this script, and what type of script should I have? And what should I say about, how, if they say this, or if I say this. Listen, before you do any of that, you got to do these 5 things. Okay. If you do these 5 things, I promise you, you will start seeing a lot more success filling your pipeline and starting to generate quality conversations, and then eventually turn those conversations into revenue. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was one that I've been planning on sharing with you guys for a while, but we've had a lot of great topics. And so listen, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Who wants to do a giveaway? Would you guys prefer a Freightpreneur t-shirt or a cash giveaway? Which would you prefer? Hit me up in the comments and let me know. After we do a short giveaway, we will then jump into live Q&A. Stick around for the live Q&A. You can ask any questions about this checklist. You can ask any questions about anything you want related to freight broker, freight agent, entrepreneurship, whatever you want. Marketing, sales, whatever. Shamika says, cash, shirt. Man, the shirts are a big hit. Cash shirt. Holy cow. People love the shirt. I probably should start selling this damn thing. I don't know why I haven't. I should. I was going to like last year, and then I just kind of lost track of setting up the store for it and all. I just don't want to do all the fulfillment, right? I don't want to deal with any of that. I should probably just have my daughter set it up and let her keep the money. Not that we're going to make a whole lot on a $20 shirt, but ultimately, maybe it'd be a nice little business for her to start. Probably a good idea. Maybe I'll let her do that. All right, cool. All right. T-shirt, dropship, T-shirt, cash. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do cash giveaway today. I haven't done cash in a little while. All right. Haven't done cash in a little while. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give away $50 cash. $50 cash. We'll see what we have time after that. If you want a chance to win $50 cash, here's all you got to do. All right. What I want you to do is I want you to go to pull out your smartphone, right? If you got an Apple or Android phone, whatever you got, pull it out right now. And then what I want you to do is I want you to go to your podcast app, wherever you listen to music or listen to podcasts. If you're on Apple, it's your Apple podcast app. It's a purple icon on there. It's free. It costs you nothing. You can also do it on Spotify. You can also do it on, I think, Pandora, maybe Amazon Music, some other ones. What I want you to do is I want you to go into that Apple Podcast. I want you to search for Freight Broker Bootcamp. I have a podcast. It's absolutely free. I think we've got, how many episodes do we have on there now? We've got, hold on, let me check. We've got 140 free episodes, 140 free trainings on this channel right now. Audio only, right? It's all audio, no video. You can listen to it when you're walking the dog, when you're working out, when you're driving your car, you're driving your truck, whatever you're doing. Go there and I want you to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and then come back into the comments and let me know that you rated, say I rated, reviewed, and subscribed on Apple or Spotify or Google or Amazon or wherever it is. But you need to let me know where you rate, reviewed, and subscribed, okay? So I want you to do that. Pull out your mobile phone right now. Go in, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and then come in and let me know in the comments. If you got to let me know I rate, reviewed, and subscribed on Apple. And if you do that, then you'll have a chance to win the $50 prize. I'm only going to allow people to win if they specifically do that. Now this is an honor system. Okay. So be honorable. It'll only take you 60 seconds to do this. And then you have a chance to win $50. And listen, if there's 10 people that do this, you got a 1 out of 10 chance because I do a random drawing. Okay. What time is it right now? Oh, 12:23. Okay. All right. So we're going to give away the 50. Okay. So Serge says, all right, rate, review, subscribe, rate, review, subscribe. Okay, good. People are getting it. All right. All right. So I'm going to give you another minute to rate, review, and subscribe. Fat Mike wants an FBBC baseball cap. Maybe I'll challenge my daughter here to set up a store and then just start making this stuff available where you guys can get it, a little bit of merch. I'll be honest with you guys. I never thought in my wildest dreams I would ever be selling merch or anybody would want my merch. I love the Freightpreneur. I mean, I'm in the process of trademarking this right now, by the way. Freight Broker Bootcamp is obviously trademarked, but I'm trademarking this right now. So I probably should make it available for you guys to get. Maybe I will. I'll keep pushing me. Okay. Keep pushing me on these lives to set up a store where you can guys get access to maybe some sweatshirts and t-shirts and hats, stuff like that. I would only do it if you guys really want me to. I mean, honestly, I do not need to placate my ego by selling merch. I'm not some Instagram influencer who needs merchandise in order to subsidize my lifestyle. We've been very blessed and I'm thankful to the community, but I would only do it if it's something you guys really want to do. All right. So we got a bunch of people who subscribed. Awesome. All right. So listen, I'm going to randomly pick one person. I'm going to scroll through the feed, point my mouse at one person, and the winner is Michael Shepard. Rate, reviewed, and subscribed on Apple. Congratulations, Michael. You win $50. How simple was that? And for the rest of you that played along, thank you so much. You definitely can't lose. There's a lot of great training on there. I put 2 new episodes out every single week. All right. And this is the best of the best of the best training that I've ever done in my career over the last decade in audio format, and it's free. Okay. So, Michael, here's all you got to do in order to claim your prize. Go to my Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page, like the page, and then message me your full name, your PayPal email address. All right. And then let me know that you won the podcast subscribe t-shirt giveaway. The podcast subscribe t-shirt giveaway. All right. You got to make sure you message me through Facebook with your PayPal email and you won the podcast subscribe t-shirt giveaway. I'll send you off the $50 via PayPal. You'll get it within 24 to 48 hours after I get that message from you. Appreciate you guys all playing along. All right, guys, let's thank you so much. Serge says buy a shirt with your $50. Okay. Yeah, if I sold them, it'd be great, right? You could probably buy 2 or 3 with that. All right. You should give a t-shirt to those who get Freight Broker Bootcamp. I've actually thought of that, but you know my problem with that? The logistics of it. The whole thought process of shipping stuff to every single customer and then those things getting returned and then you got to ship it again. And listen, shipping things through UPS and shipping things through the Postal Service, it's, I did freight management, logistics, and brokerage for a long time. I brokered $200 million worth of freight. Whenever it has to do with shipping, it seems like these days it's always a hassle just to get a t-shirt from point A to point B. I don't know why. All right, cool. So thank you for the ideas. Thank you for everybody playing along. All right, so listen, let's jump into live Q&A. If you guys have questions, hit me up in the comments. Here's what I can promise. We will not get to everybody's question today, but I promise the ones that I do get to, I will do my absolute best to try to answer your question. If I don't have that answer, I'll try to point you in the right direction, okay? So hit me up in the comments with any questions you have, whether it be about today's training, whether it be about anything to do with becoming a successful freight broker, freight agent, entrepreneur, marketing, sales, whatever you want, right? I will do my best to try to answer those questions. And then, depending upon how many questions, I'll do as many as I can with the time allotted. Oh, Old Young. What are your thoughts on FMCSA considering getting rid of surety bond and making brokerages have $75,000 liquid or in assets? Well, they're not going to get rid of the surety bond. Okay. They're not going to get rid of the surety bond. They're not going to require $75,000 in assets to do it. That's not going to happen. That'll never happen. I would bet you $10,000 to your dollar that will never, ever happen. Okay. I've been in and around the industry long enough. I was a part of the TIA. I monitor and watch everything that's going on from a legislative perspective and from a law perspective. And I follow the FMCSA very closely. And I have friends inside of the TIA, and I assure you that's not going to happen. But there may be changes. There may be changes to how bonds are done. There may be changes on how those things are done, right? So, but you'll have to adapt. Right now, just so you guys know, the only change, since I was a broker in 2003, the only change that's ever really been made to the freight broker bonding requirement since 2003, that's almost 20 years now, okay? The only change is they went from $10,000 bond to $75,000 bond. You want to know the difference? Nothing. The bond prices for a $10,000 bond are almost the same as the bond prices for a $75,000 bond. Everybody thought that when they changed the bond from 10 to 75, it was going to make the bond cost exuberant and impossible to afford. Nope, it didn't. They thought it was going to drive every freight broker out of the industry. Nope, it didn't. Okay. What it did is it got rid of some of the riffraff. Okay. And it did provide another layer of protection for carriers, which is what the bond is all about, right? A $10,000 bond is not sufficient for a brokerage because all that means is if you have a $10,000 bond, it means the first $10,000 in claims to come to that bond, if that broker goes out of business, are the bonds that are going to get paid first. or the claims that are going to get paid first. Anybody over 10,000 wouldn't get paid. The same thing goes for a $75,000 bond. So I think some of the changes that are going to take place is if people have claims on your bond and you don't fix those claims and you don't remunerate the payment to those carriers and you don't handle those claims properly, they may deactivate your broker authority if you don't handle those claims properly. That could happen, right? And that could very well happen. So that's my 2 cents on it. Scrolling through. Sorry, I got lost my place here. Sorry. Jeez, where did we go? Sorry. I got to find where I was. Okay, so here's a question from Nameless Zazin. Question: why do shippers, receivers, or truckers need a broker? What valuable skill or trade are we offering? I really need to know. Okay, the reason why shippers need brokers is this. Number one, there's been a capacity shortage historically since I joined the industry almost 20 years ago. All right. So what you got to understand is that about 90%, 80 to 90% of all motor carriers out there own less than, I think, 8 or 9 trucks. So they're small businesses. All right. You think that every trucking company is Werner or Schneider or some big trucking company or Landstar that has hundreds or thousands of trucks. That's not the case. That's a very small group of companies that have a large number of trucks and trailers. All right. So most trucking companies are very small. They own less than 8 trucks. And so the challenge is for shippers is it really comes down to time. What brokers do is save shippers time. How do they do that? They save them time by sourcing carriers, because rather than that shipper having to manage relationships with hundreds of carriers that all have a small fleet, right? Or being limited to just large fleets, right? What they can do is they can lean on a broker who does all of that for them. They vet the carriers, they source the carriers, they negotiate rates with the carriers, they dispatch the drivers, they make pickup and delivery appointments. So it really comes down to time. The most valuable asset in the world, above and beyond Bitcoin, above and beyond gold, above and beyond anything, is time, the most precious commodity in the world. Okay? Screw Bitcoin. Trust me, if time was something that you could actually purchase, it would be worth millions of dollars. Okay? Because time you can never get back. All right. So that's why shippers need and want brokerage. It really comes down to time. Now, why do truck drivers need brokers? Well, the same sort of situation. They're small companies, and those small companies, whether they have 1 truck or 2 trucks or 5 trucks or 10 trucks, in most cases, those companies do not have a sales force, right? They do not have a sales force that is constantly out there soliciting to get shippers, because most small carriers rely very heavily on brokers, either wholly or at least partially, to move their equipment, right? In order to generate sales and to move, to move their equipment. So some carriers have what they'll call kind of a house account. They're local in their area. They've got 1 shipper they do business with, and then that shipper sends them out to, from Buffalo to Chicago. And then the problem is they don't have a customer in Chicago. So they got to go from Chicago back to Buffalo, either driving empty, which is very expensive, or they take a brokered load, which is why it's called a backhaul. Okay. So they'll take a backhaul back to Buffalo, and that's how the broker will work with a small shipper, or with a small carrier, I should say. So yeah, that gives you, so those relationships between a broker and a carrier, it depends upon the dynamics of how the company is. But what it comes down to is it's saving them time and saving them money. Because imagine if they had to hire full-time salespeople in order to go out and try to find shippers in every lane from every point back to their home base. It would be virtually impossible. Because this week they might be moving Buffalo to Chicago, but next week they might be moving Buffalo to Atlanta, and the next week they might be moving Buffalo to Dallas. They'd have to have customers in all of those locations. But rather than that, what do? They call up a good broker and they say, listen, I know he's going to have a load in the next day coming back from Dallas, Chicago, and Atlanta. No matter where I'm at, he or maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or she, maybe are 2 or 3 or 4 different brokers that I've already vetted and worked with will be able to help me get back home with that backhaul. So I hope that helps. It's a good question though. Thanks. Question, Diesel Dan. Dennis, do you think face-to-face meetings on customers who are local is a good idea for an agent to get customers? Absolutely, 100%. You will never have a better opportunity to build rapport in a sales process than you will face-to-face. Face-to-face is by far the best. The challenge with face-to-face is this. A lot of people, number one, if your customers aren't local, it's very hard to do face-to-face because it's very expensive. If I'm in Buffalo and I've got a prospect, a bunch of prospects in Chicago, flying out to Chicago, having a hotel, doing all that, it's very expensive. Travel can be very expensive. So if they're not local, it's very difficult. If they are local, the second biggest challenge is some people are not comfortable selling face-to-face. The same way as some people aren't comfortable on the phone, some people aren't comfortable face-to-face. I know a lot of people who will pick up the phone and they're very, very good on the phone. But if you put them in a face-to-face environment, they're like a, fish out of water. They don't know what to do. They're out of their comfort zone. So if you have the ability and the skills, right, to do it face-to-face, I think it can be an incredible tool. The other thing about the phone is that it leverages your time, right? So, whereas you face-to-face, you may have to spend all day trying to get, and few diesel, price, I should say gas, maintenance on your car, wear and tear on your car, weather conditions, all that. So face-to-face has its challenges, but you will never have a better opportunity to build rapport than you will face-to-face. Why? Because people like people. They like your face. They like your smile. You can read their body language. They can read you. You have a better opportunity to build that rapport face-to-face than on the phone, because the phone is very easy for people to, number one, ignore, and number two, for them to hang up, because you're just a voice. You're not a face. You're not smiling. They don't know you. It's easy to hang up. So I think face-to-face is one of the most powerful strategies if you have the opportunity to do it. Now, what I teach as a part of my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator is a multi-touch point outreach strategy. So you use the phone, you use email, you use social media, and you use face-to-face, but you build what I call a sales cadence that allows you to very effectively break through the noise and to increase the number of contacts and the number of quality conversations that you have by using a multi-touch point outreach strategy. So if you guys want to be a part of that Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, I mentioned it earlier, go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com / let me pull it up here, wait list. You guys can get on the wait list. I'll probably be opening up enrollment in the next month or so, 30 to 45 days. I always limit that to 100 people per class, right? And it sells out really fast. It'll sell out in a few days, anywhere between 2, 3, 4, 5 days, it'll sell out. So that's why you have to be on the wait list, because if not, you'll never have a chance to be a part of the program. Okay. So, all right, let's see, what do we got? All right, so Blakely Friend asks, in cold calling shippers, what are some tips to get past gatekeepers from your past experience? The best tip I can give you for getting past gatekeepers is this: know the name of the shipping manager. That's the number one tip. Okay? If you call into a shipper and you say, hey, can I talk to the shipping manager? It's like a big red flag that says, oh, this person's a salesperson, DEFCON 4. The red lights start flashing and the gatekeeper says, can I ask why you're calling? And you say, oh, I want to sell my shit. And they say, you'll have to send that to us through the mail, or here's an email address, or I'll put you through to the voicemail, right? So whatever the case may be, they're going to screen you, right? So simply by knowing the shipping manager, logistics manager, whatever your contact's name is, will literally double or triple the opportunity of getting through. Because when I call in and I say, hey, can I talk to Blakely in shipping? And they say, in their mind, they go, oh, they know who Blakely is, right? They know who the shipping manager is. I'll just put them through because it's easy. They're familiar, right? So that's the number one tip. And it's super simple, right? Do a little bit of research, okay? Buy a database, get access to a database with the shipping manager's, logistics manager's name. Look on LinkedIn, right? Look on the website. Do a little research and get the shipping manager's name. That's the number one tip I can give you in getting past the gatekeeper. I'll give you another tip. If for some reason you have a gatekeeper that keeps on gatekeeping you and not letting you through, and you've done multiple calls and you can't get through and you can't find the shipping manager's name online, get transferred over to customer service, get transferred over to sales, get transferred over to purchasing, get transferred over to marketing, get transferred to another department, and then ask who the shipping manager is. And you can simply say, when you get transferred over to sales, you can say, oh, hey, listen, sorry, I think they sent me to the wrong department. Can you put me over to shipping? And they're going to say, sure. Hey, really quick, what's the shipping manager's name again? And he or she's going to say, oh, yeah, that's Joe Smith. And now all of a sudden, you know the shipping manager's name for future reference. And then he's going to transfer you directly into the shipping department. And then when someone picks up the phone, you know the person's name. I mean, guys, this is chess, not checkers. You got to think around corners a little bit. You got to be a little bit strategic, right? So there's a couple of tips to help you get past the gatekeeper. Hope that helps, Blakely. Does the US DOT number come with the MC number? What is BOC3 and EDI? Okay. Yeah, when you file your freight broker application, you are going to get a DOT number and an MC number. Okay. The BOC3 is also a requirement that you will need to become an active broker, and that is what's called a processing agent. A processing agent is where you have a representative in all 50 states that could be served, all right, that's a part of the record, the part of your brokerage license that's a part of the record, where you could be served by anybody in any state if there were any sort of legal issues. So it's a published name and address in every state where they could send legal correspondence if there were any sort of an issue. That's what a BOC3 is, right? Super easy, super cheap, super simple. Just go on the FMCSA website and you'll see BOC3. They even give you recommendations of companies that do BOC3s, right? And then EDI. EDI has nothing to do with getting your freight broker authority. EDI is electronic data interchange. EDI is a system that some very large companies use to transmit data to their vendors. Now, EDI is not just logistics or shipping or trucking related. EDI crosses all different areas, but sometimes some shippers will require you to have EDI in order for you to get tendered loads to them or to you, right? So they will tender loads to you that way. They will communicate data back and forth that way. And so some shippers will have that. It's fairly rare, and it's usually only large shippers. Small companies typically don't use it. But yeah, EDI is something that, one, if you can get set up, most modern TMS providers have an EDI integration built into it. So you don't need to be very technical. They'll help you with that. But yeah, it's really not a big issue. But rather than going back and forth through email or through fax or through over the phone, they send all the load data and all the tenders and all the information through EDI. Okay, electronic data interchange. Hope that helps. Question. I use GMass to send mass emails. What do you recommend so prospects or the competition can't stop spamming my email address? Be more clear on that. I'm not sure what your question is. You said, I use GMass to send mass emails. What do you recommend so the prospects or the competition can't stop spamming my email address? Oh, be more clear on that, please, because I'm really not sure what you're looking for there. What exactly are you looking for? Okay, so Ads S asks tips on building carrier relationships as a new broker with no credit. Okay, well, building relationships with carriers as a new broker really comes down to very much like building relationships with shippers as a new broker. What it comes down to is if you sound like every other broker, then you're going to get treated like every other broker. So the key is you want to build rapport. Don't be what I call a load jockey, where you go and call a carrier only when you need them. If you want to build a relationship with a carrier, you need to focus on them, not on you. If you want to build a relationship with anybody, your focus should be on them, not you. That's the first thing you have to get through your head. Most people don't think that way. What they think about is, what's in it for me? What can you do for me? That's how most people think in business, and that's not the real world. That's not what's going to work. That's not what's going to make you stand out. That's not what's going to build rapport. That's not what's going to build that know, like, and trust for them to want to do business with you. The same requirements that you have to do business with a shipper is the same requirements you have to do with a carrier. They have to know, like, and trust you. If those things aren't in place, then they're not going to do business with you. I don't care who they are. So build rapport, be different. A simple way to be different is to talk differently, right? Be nice, be genuine, ask good questions, come up with an interesting sales hook. You can build a sales hook. You're still selling, right? You're selling the relationship with a carrier, just like you're selling the relationship with a shipper. Everything that I teach in my Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, everything that I teach on all of my free Freight Broker Sales training videos will apply to carriers as well as customers. Because the reality is, as a broker, you really have two primary customers, the shipper and the carrier. Because without the carrier, it doesn't matter how many shippers you have. And without the shippers, it doesn't matter how many trucks you have. Do you follow my point? I hope that makes sense. So, it's basic rapport building. Now, there's other things you can do if you're trying to get them to haul your loads. Things like, we can do free quick pay. We can wire you the money. We can do fuel advances, things of that nature. Those are some financial tools that you can use, right? If you've got a factoring company with a lot of credibility, you can also get testimonials from other carriers, and you can share those testimonials and social proof with the other carriers. There's things that you can do that way, but it really comes down to building rapport and focusing on how you can help them. Okay? Hope that helps. Joel Santana, I just gave you those tips, my friend. I just gave you those tips. My tips to you are follow those 5 pre-cold calling tips. If you follow those 5, I think you'll be surprised. Voicemail script. What were the 3 factors? Intro, the reason for the call, which is your sales hook, a call to action, and then your contact information. Okay? So it's really 4. Intro. So it's, hi, Mr. Prospect. The reason for the call is here's an example. We're working with other logistics managers in the steel industry to help them spend less time sourcing, negotiating, and dispatching carriers and drivers and more time supporting their customer needs. I was just wondering if I could get a few minutes of your time to discuss how you're balancing this issue and if there's any way we can make your job easier. Call me back, 716-555-1212. Again, my name is Dennis Brown with XYZ Logistics, 716-555-1212. And I leave all my contact information to the end. Why? Because if I say that I'm a logistics company and I say that I'm a freight broker up front and I give my number up front, they're going to hang up the phone after that because they know it's a cold call, right? So if you leave the contact information to the end, that's a little trick. You'll have more people that will actually listen to your whole voicemail. Okay? So that's the basic voicemail blueprint. Good question. Thanks, Letitia. Okay, so Max asks, can an agent do contracts with his employees as the same as a broker does contracts with agents? So you have a broker-agent agreement with back-end solicitation clause. Okay, so yeah, if you are an agent, if you are a freight agent for a licensed broker and you have a contract with a licensed broker and you want to hire you can hire employees, which are W-2 employees, which would fall under your state's labor laws, or you can hire them as independent contractors. Maybe they're, if they're an independent contractor, they have to meet the independent contractor status, right? They can't really be an employee and pay them as an independent contractor, but you can set up what would be called a sub-agent. So that would be an agent under an agent, and you could have a sub-agent agreement with them and you could pay them a part of your commission. So if you're making 60% and you want to pay them 50% and you'll keep the extra 10% and they get 50%, that's great. Now, the hard part is, right? Nobody with a half a brain, nobody that's done any sort of research or due diligence is going to sign a broker agent agreement that has a no back solicitation clause. I know where you're going with this, okay? And I understand what you're trying to do. But I would caution you to understand that trying to get people to sign a no back solicitation clause, right, as an independent contractor is a no-win, right? All you're going to do is alienate smart people that would never sign that. And number two, keep unhappy employees, unhappy agents, right? So I'm not a big believer in the no back solicitation clause. If you're an agent and you want to hire a sub-agent, the challenge with that is you've got to make them happy and you have to provide them enough value that at some point they don't go out to become their own agent. And this is the flaw with the sub-agent business model. I am not a big believer in the sub-agent business model. I'm not promoting it. I don't think it's the smartest way for you to build a highly profitable and sustainable business. Now, I'm going to answer that part. How should you as an agent build a highly profitable and sustainable business? The way you should do it is you should be the leader of the sales. You should be the sales leader and you should go out and get the customers and control those customer relationships. As an agent, you will then hire operations people in to work under you to support everything that's not sales related. Posting loads, sourcing carriers, negotiating rates, dispatching trucks, doing check calls, following up and getting bills, bill of ladings and all that, right? So that's what you will hire somebody in to do. So you will sell into the operational capacity that you need. So initially you're going to need one operator. Once you get enough people that you can't move the freight, you're going to need an operations person. Then you're going to transition the operations over to them. You're going to continue to sell and continue to sell and continue to sell. And then eventually you're going to have to bring on another operations person. Then you're going to continue to sell and continue to sell and continue to sell. And then you're going to have to bring on another operations person. And the key is you are the originator of the account. You control the customer relationship and they do the operations. You could build a $10, $20 million agency with that model very easily. Okay. But it will be very hard for you to build a $10 million plus freight agency under the sub-agent business model. Because number one, you're not going to be able to attract the talent. Number two, The ones that you do bring on, if you're not able to provide the value that they need, eventually they will transition out of you as a sub-agent and become their own freight broker agent, or they'll become their own freight broker, right? Because you can't prevent them from doing that. They're an independent contractor, not an employee. Even as an employee, I'm not a big believer in non-competes. All right. So that's my 2 cents. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. I really don't care. I've been in this industry long enough to know I've been on both sides of the lawsuit. I've been the guy who sued somebody over a non-compete, and I've been on the other side where I've been sued over the non-compete. Okay. And there's no winners in that deal. And having that agreement is not going to benefit you. Right. And anybody smart in this day and age is not going to sign a broker agent agreement or a sub-agent agreement that has a no back solicitation clause on their own customers. Now, you can have a no back solicitation clause on your customers, but the reality is they'll never even know who your customers are. Why would they? They're never going to have access to your customer data. They're only going to have access to their customer data. So you don't really need to worry about that. Don't tell them who your customers are. They have to tell you who their customers are. So yeah, that's it. Sorry, I went off on such a rant there. Okay, so Michael asks, hey, Dennis, have you ever had a situation in your experience where a carrier hijacked a load due to them wanting more money? Well, I've never had a carrier hijack a load for wanting more money unless there was some sort of an issue where the carrier was delayed due to not their fault. So let me give you an example. Say you got a 1-pick, 2-drop load, okay? And at the first drop, the carrier gets delayed because they're not ready to unload them. He runs out of hours of service, and then he can't make the second delivery. Now, some carriers get very nervous about that because they don't want their truck to get held over. Okay? So I don't recall personally ever having any of my loads hijacked, but I know there are times when carriers will come back and ask for more money. And I'm not naive. I know that there are carriers out there that have hijacked loads. It's number one, it's pretty rare. Number two, it can be prevented. Okay. Easily prevented if you vet the right carriers. You dot all the I's and cross the T's. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. Okay, so Paul Johnson asks, say that someone has completed with your training and have set everything up. What would your first move be day one as an active business? Okay, so your first move, once you're set up, you're either a freight agent or a freight broker, and you've got that basic fundamental setup. The first thing you need to do is you need to determine your niche, and you need to do the research on that niche. So my niche, you've probably heard it a million times. When we first started, we did van Northeast outbound. It needed to originate in New York or PA or New Jersey, all the way up through the New England area. If it originated in that area, if it picked up in that area and went west or south, that was our niche, and it had to be on a van. If they had flatbed loads, we didn't do it. If they had refrigerated loads, we didn't do it. If they had heavy haul loads, we didn't do it. If they had power only loads, we didn't do it. Only van loads. That was our niche. So we did research. Number one, we used the load board to do research to understand what carriers were running those lanes, what pickup cities were the most pickups coming from. We did some research after that to figure out who the shippers might be, who are the major manufacturers, distributors, producers, importers, exporters in those markets. We created a list of those people, right? We also identified the supply and demand of trucks to loads in any given lane, Boston to Chicago versus Philadelphia to Chicago, right? And they were different, right? The load to truck ratios were different. The rates were different. Capacity was different. The number of loads was different. The number of shippers was different, right? So we did that research. We identified our niche up front. That's the first thing you got to do, is define your niche, because I'm a big believer in riches are in niches. If you just pick up the phone book or pick up some directory or even call the Freight Broker Bootcamp, the shipper directory that's in the Freight Broker Bootcamp, and you just randomly start calling people and hoping that you're going to stumble across a shipper that you're going to be able to support in a meaningful way, and then you're going to be able to build a business around that, it relies way too much on luck. I'm not a guy who believes in luck. Luck is not a winning plan, right? Luck is not the building blocks of a winning strategy. So I try to take luck out of the equation. So I think finding your niche would be the number one, identifying those niche companies, and then building a list of those companies that you're going to do sales outreach to. Okay, so here's a question from Michael. What are specific things for details that you would need to know before knowing you're educated about a certain customer? It's just fundamental stuff. What type of products do they make or sell? Not mind-blowing, pretty simple. Just because they're a steel company doesn't mean that their product is steel. It could be steel coils. It could be steel bars. It could be, there's a million different types of steel products. You want to know what their products are. What are some of their primary products, actual products, not the category of products, okay? Understanding those products would be very helpful, okay? That's basic. You'd also want to know who the shipping manager's name is, the logistics manager, warehouse manager. You'd want to know who the name of that person is. You'd probably want to know the company, some recent news, press releases, articles, things of that nature. Those are some of the basic fundamentals of sales intelligence. Now, you can always gather more, but what I don't want you to do is I want you to gather just enough on that first call to allow you to be educated beyond what the average freight broker is so that you can stand out. I don't want you to spend 20 minutes doing research on every prospect. That's a misunderstanding that people have. They think I want you to spend 20 minutes knowing everything about everything about anything about everything about that shipper. I don't want you to do that. You need to be able to create a system where you can spend 2 or 3 minutes gathering some basic sales intelligence, which is going to educate you above and beyond what most freight brokers are willing to do. Most freight brokers are smile and dial. They have a list of phone companies and numbers, and they just dial and dial and dial and dial and dial, and somebody picks up the phone, and they rely on luck and perfect timing to try to build rapport and to move that conversation to the next step. And it's a high volume, low percentage process, and it burns people out, and it burns out your niche. I'm much bigger on quality over quantity. It is a marriage. There's a marriage of quality and quantity. You can't just make one quality call a day, but you also can't make 100 really shitty calls. So it's a combination of quality and quantity. I hope that helps. What time is it? Oh boy. All right. Let me try to answer one more question. I'm going to try to find something that I didn't answer already today, something I think that I could answer quickly. Okay, here's a good question. Next link asks, how can you make your shipper pay you on time? Number one, you can't make anybody do anything. You can influence and you can increase the odds of them paying you on time by doing a few things. Number one, when you first bring them on board, make sure they fully understand your credit terms. You're going to have a conversation with them and let them know that 30 days means 30 days. It doesn't mean 60 days. So having that conversation up front is very helpful. All right. Setting expectations. That's big with any sort of relationship. Setting expectations up front is very important. The other side of it, I'm going to tell you, bill them properly. Make sure you include everything they need as a part of the billing process. If you leave out scale tickets, if you leave out lumper tickets, if you leave out, the paperwork that they require, they're going to hold the bill and they're not going to pay you on time. It's going to delay the payment. So bill them properly. And then the last thing is this: squeaky wheel gets the grease. I think you all know what that means. It means you've got to call them, you've got to email them, you have to follow up with them. If you think that every shipper is just going to pay their bill on time without you calling, emailing, and following up, you are very naive. That's not the world of business. That's not how business works. The rule of law when it comes to getting paid is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You need to be squeaking in their ear, letting them know that you need grease, and that grease is the payment. If they want to continue to do business with you, they've got to pay you on time. So setting up some expectations, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Those are a couple of tips. I hope that helps. All right, guys, listen, I'm going to wrap it up for today. You guys have had some great questions. We're already at 1:06. We've been over an hour. I want to respect your time. And listen, here's all I can tell you, right? If you are curious about becoming a freight broker, if you're on here and you're debating and you've been trying to mull over, should I sign up for some training? Should I become a freight broker or freight agent? Here's all I can tell you. I offer a 60-day, 100% unconditional money back guarantee. You know what that means? That means I don't care what the reason is. Anytime during the first 60 days, you can request a refund. Our refund rate is very, very low. I think it's around 3% or something stupid like that. So we have very few people that are going to ask for a refund. Why? Because what we provide works. It works. You can see it through the student success stories that we've had. We've got tons of students that have went on to build 6 and 7 and even 8-figure businesses. Yogi Goswami, one of the group's favorite, we have a private members only community, posted something the other day. He's been in business, I think, 3 or 4 years. He did $18 or $19 million in sales last year in 2022. How did he do that? Well, he had to get his first load from his first shipper. How did he do that? He used Freight Broker Bootcamp to learn the basics, to use that as a roadmap to go from no experience to getting his first shipper. Everything from then on, he did on his own. I don't take any credit for that. Yogi is one of the best students we've ever had. He's a huge success story. And I am not the reason why he was successful, but I helped a little bit. I helped him get past that hump, right? And now he's out there shining, doing extremely well. I wouldn't be surprised if some point in the future he has a $50 million plus freight brokerage, and I'm happy for him. He's an amazing guy. Everybody loves him. And that's another side of it. If you guys join the Freight Broker Bootcamp program, you also get access to a private members only community where you can network and collaborate and ask questions of other people that are in the same shoes as you or people that have already went through the process that you're going through, including Yogi, including some of my other top students that will chime in that private members group whenever people ask questions. So there's a lot of benefits to that. Hope you guys decide to join. Again, if you guys want to be a part or get on the wait list for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator, all you got to do is go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. Look, it's already up there. freightbrokerbootcamp.com/waitlist. That's for the Freight Broker Sales Accelerator. That's more of an advanced sales training program. If you want to join the Freight Broker Bootcamp program, just go to freightbrokerbootcamp.com. Okay. You can get signed up. As soon as you sign up, you're going to get instant access to all the training. Okay. And then you'll have dedicated online support. So I hope you guys have an awesome week. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations to the winner of the free giveaway. Make sure you hit me up with your PayPal email so I can send you that $50 prize. Totally appreciate you guys being here. Have an awesome week. And we'll see you next Monday with another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live.